It's already time to move on from Ikoria, layer of behemoths, and it's kind of crazy to think that because it feels like we're just getting into the groove, but there's just so many products, and Core Set 2021 is on the way, so as I get ready to move on to the next set, something I like to do is go through the set and see what cards I really want to make sure I have for my commander decks, because that's where I play with these cards once it's no longer the belle of the ball, so to speak. So, I just want to start off by saying thank you, Wizards, because this set has been awesome. Like, definitely one of the top sets in the last 2, 3, 4 years for Limited. I have really enjoyed the drafts, the seal, the little pre-release we were able to pull together. This set was fantastic. From a Limited perspective, thank you for the memories. Companion though, yikes. Speaking of which, I am not really going to get into the companions from a commander perspective. I don't know what the future holds for this mechanic. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I don't want it to dominate the conversation any more than it already has, so we're just going to move on from it and not worry about it for this video. What I am going to focus on are the cards that I feel were overlooked, or let's just say underappreciated for Commander, and trying to find those cards that work for you or your play group or whatever you just like to do and play and focus on, but also make sure you have those cards in your collection. If you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments. Let's get into it. Things first, let's review the cycles of cards that I'm sure everyone has an opinion on, but let's settle those debates and if you need to pick those cards up or not. Starting with the Tryum Lands, these are great, but not CEDH great. I think they're best utilized in their respective 3-color decks. That's where they really shine. The main problem here is they enter tapped. But if slower mana fixing options works for your playgroup, then you should definitely play them. I don't see them as being as valuable as shock lands, and makes me wonder if we'll ever get what I'll call bolt lands, where we can take 3 damage and have them enter untapped. Anyway, the Tryum Lands, I like them. They work for my playgroup, and I'll definitely be adding these to a few decks. Not sure where these will land price-wise, but currently they're all available for under $10 a piece. Next are the Mana Rocks, which are fine, but best for those budget builds or players newer to the format not wanting to pay a premium for the more tuned options. The problem here is there is simply a lot of competition at the 2 and 3 drop spot for Mana Rocks in Commander. So if you're newer to the format, these can be a great starting point. Now the Mythos Spells, they're fine, but they're a bit hindered because you cannot run them in the mono or 2-color decks that you may want. Since they have the mana symbols in the actual wording of the spell, they must be ran in 3-color decks. But some are quite powerful. Mythos of Snapdax is probably my favorite as a better Tragic Arrogance, assuming you cast it with all 3 colors. Iluna's is nice too, since you can copy any permanent, and it doubles as a potential removal for a creature. Mythos of Nethroi is very versatile removal, and Mythos of Brokos can certainly be built around to bring a ton of value to your build. Mythos of Vedrok just doesn't do it for me though. Either way, they're all relatively cheap, so certainly easy additions to make to your decks. Now onto the Apex Legends, who are the focus of these Mythoi. To my surprise, you can pick all these up for around $5 or less, except for Nethroi, who's closer to 8. All of these are solid plays and can bring a ton of synergy on top of being your commander. Nethroi and Vedrok have the abilities that work best if your playgroup doesn't run a lot of graveyard hate. If they do though, I'd steer clear of these, at least as your commander. What I like about all the Apex Predators though, is their mutate abilities can scale with the power of your decks, and with them being inexpensive, they can be a strong addition today, and a card you can continue to build around into the future. Personally, I'm working on collecting each one of these just to make sure I have them at the ready in my collection. The last cycle is the Ultimatums, and they're all playable and strong even if they do cost 7-colored mana. Ruinous Ultimatum will win you the game, but then rest assured everyone at your table will make sure you lose the next one. An Eerie Ultimatum can probably do the most bonkers board building, but is ruined by graveyard hate, so be mindful of that. These are just fun cards to play. I wouldn't say they're overly competitive, but I plan to play them in most of my casual builds because they're those massive spells that swing the game in your favor and live up to their name. But I wouldn't go out of my way to add these to my more tuned decks unless they really added something unique to my game plan. Now let's go through the mono-colored cards. No surprise, Luminous Broodmoth is just a good card. It most likely provides you protection from a good deal of board wipes, provided they don't exile anything, and allow for some recursion shenanigans, which always feels cool to pull off in Commander. This is one of the pricier cards in the set though at the moment, with it being over $11, and that's largely because it's so good. And remember, its triggered ability can hit itself, so if you throw a Colossal Hammer on it like you do in Commander and it dies, it will return itself with a flying counter. Pretty fancy there, Broodmoth. Next is Drainif Magistrate. This is a card you're going to want to play in plenty, if not all decks that run white. It was banned in Brawl for a reason. One of those being it's not symmetrical, meaning it only ruins your opponent's plans, and it doesn't let your opponents do stuff related to a lot of the newer mechanics we've seen, like escape, trying to bring creatures back from their adventure, or any other problematic and dubious cards like, yeah, companions. Except for the fact that we just had that rule change, so it doesn't really impact companions. But if your playgroups like mine, you're gonna need a couple copies of these in your collection, and at under $3, I think it's well worth it. For blue, Sea Dasher Octopus is a cheap flash creature that draws a card when it deals damage to a player. I like this in a lot of blue decks that will have early or evasive threats. I'm also a big fan of Ominous Seas. You can cycle it if you don't have a setup for it, but I like the idea of a cheap card that can pump out massive creatures unless removed. There's plenty of ways to draw more cards in Commander, and in my playgroup, Wheels and Temple Bells are rather common, so being able to benefit from my opponent's devious plan or force them to find an answer makes this card a fun sleeper pick for me. In black, Extinction Event I really like because exiling can be invaluable in a game of Commander. More importantly, this is my top politicking card for the set since we can line it up to where it may only hit a player or two, and thus we can hopefully get a favor out of casting it. That can add some sweet additional value to this card. Now in red, it's a bit janky, but we're getting closer to Phoenix Tribal. Whenever EverQuell Phoenix mutates, the token it creates can get any Phoenix from your graveyard back into play tapped, which could be great for cards like Shard Phoenix to have a reoccurring mini board wipe, or Spell Pyre Phoenix to bounce cards with cycling back to your hand. Moving on to green, another sleeper pick is Kogla, the Titan Ape. It's big enough to eat most other creatures when it comes into play. Then when he attacks, it's probably going to have a good target to blow up. And lastly, the ability to bounce humans can certainly be abused as well. And in the future, if we ever get a human version of something like Dockside Extortionist, that's a quick way to make infinite mana. So I think this card is one of, if not the biggest sleepers in the entire set as well, at being well under $1 at the moment. There are some spicy 3-color cards I want to call out as sleepers as well. Death's Oasis is only a quarter, and what's great about this is any creature you have dying will fill your graveyard and aid in getting creatures back into your hand. Is it the most optimal play? No, but it works well with what Abzan wants to do, which is utilize the benefits of the living and the dead to overtake a game. It also works extremely well with stuff like Fiend Artisan to add even more value to your stuff leaving the battlefield, and Luminous Broodmoth helps bring it back. Ikoria is bringing us some fun times indeed. Next is Titan's Nest, which also helps you get cards into your graveyard, but essentially adds a delve element to every colored spell, because you can exile cards from your graveyard to add colorless mana. It is expensive at 4 mana that does nothing when it ETBs, but giving most of your other spells delve can really help you take the lead in subsequent turns by having essentially a second mana pool available. This card is a bit pricier though at almost 40 cents, so I mean yeah, I'd still buy it. Now for the home stretch of this video, what's last? Yeah, let's go with my favorite commanders from the set. I really like General Kudrow of Drainif. He makes human tribal that much better, he gives us graveyard hate for our opponents, and brings his own removal to the party for anything over 4 power. This feels like one of the best commanders from Ikoria to jump into the format with from a flavor and power standpoint as well. Humans is a great tribe that can go in multiple directions, my personal favorite being tokens and pairing it up with cards like Anointed Procession or Coat of Arms. But the coolest thing about this deck for a new player is you can build it now using only cards from Standard and almost certainly have upgrade options with every new set. General Kudrow at around $6 a card is one I will be picking up if I don't manage to open one in the near future. I also want to call out Riel the Everwise. She's great since every time we have to discard 1 or more cards, we get to draw that many. I've been particularly pleased with her ability to combat builds like Kroxa, who want us discarding for days. Riel is too smart for those simple tactics, and Red-Blue always has a way to close out games so long as we can find the right spells. No better way to do that than drawing cards, which Riel helps us do as well as any commander. And last but not least is Kinnan. Never mind, we're done. A mana dork and a very strong mana dump in the same card. This has to stop with blue and green cards. It's definitely a sleeper pick because your opponents are going to fall asleep as soon as you bring it out. Oh, I have so much value. What can I do with all this mana, all these cards? It's just so hard to find a way to win. If you want to buy it for $12, more power to you. Seriously though, why does blue and green just get these stupid efficient cards? I don't get it. My friend Caleb, who's a Crewfix player, is probably really excited about Kinnan because it's just a stupidly efficient card. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Anyway, let me know what you think about this video. Let me know if you agree with any of my sleeper picks or if you have some of your own that you want to let people know about down in the comments. Love to chat with you there. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you to Card Kingdom for sponsoring the channel. That's where you can go to pick up all these cards in the video if you want to make sure they're in your collection as well. Use my affiliate link in the description if you don't mind. It just lets Card Kingdom know I sent you and that I'm worth sponsoring, which would definitely help me out. So thank you for that. And of course, thank you to my patrons. I cannot say it enough. Thank you guys so much for helping support the channel and keep this content coming. And if you want to become a patron, you can do that by signing up using the link in the description. It's like the same things are in the same place. Different things, same place. What? Anyway, if you want to help out the channel, great. If not, just thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Hope you're safe and sound. We'll see you in the next video. Take it easy. Peace.